Hello history buffs and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we will dive into Catherine Willoughby's life from 1533 to 1545. In the last video, 14-year-old Catherine Willoughby married her first husband, Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk, in September 1533, and it would be 2 years until Catherine had her first child by Brandon. On the 18th of September 1535, Catherine gave birth to her first child, a son, named Henry after the king. The birth was a momentous occasion, with King Henry VIII himself standing as godfather at the infant's baptism. This event solidified Catherine's position as the Duchess of Suffolk and strengthened her ties to the royal family. Despite their high status, the Brandons faced financial difficulties during this period. David Baldwin notes in King Henry VIII's Last Love, Catherine's lands brought in £900 a year, but her husband, who had to borrow large sums to make ends meet, even when he was married to Mary, would have had little room for manoeuvre. There were inevitably occasions when they had to stall creditors and pretend that money was not as tight as it was. The death of Catherine of Aragon on the 7th of January 1536 was a significant event that affected Catherine and her mother, Maria de Salinas. Maria had managed to visit her former mistress in her final days, arriving at Kimbolton Castle on the 1st of January 1536. Catherine and her mother attended Catherine's funeral on the 29th of January 1536, with Catherine serving as one of the principal mourners. David Baldwin describes the scene. So it was that Catherine and her mother, Maria, found themselves attending the funeral of a second former queen, less than 3 years after that of the first. The obsequies were similar to those performed for Mary, except that on this occasion Catherine was the most senior mourner after Lady Eleanor Brandon. The funeral sermon, which criticised Catherine of Aragon and praised the king's actions, likely offended Catherine and her mother. Baldwin suggests that they may have felt some satisfaction when Anne Boleyn fell from grace and was executed a few months later. Throughout this period, Catherine's relationship with her stepdaughter Eleanor, who was the same age, remained close. They had grown up together in the Brandon household, and Eleanor had become the Countess of Cumberland through marriage in the previous year. On the 19th of May, Anne Boleyn, King Henry VIII's second wife, was beheaded. And just 11 days later, on the 30th of May, King Henry VIII wed Jane Seymour. During this period, Charles Brandon was ordered to remain in Lincoln to prevent further trouble in the eastern counties. Catherine kept in touch with him by letter and later joined him in person. Catherine's religious views evolved significantly during this time. David Baldwin notes in King Henry VIII's Last Love that throughout the 1530s, Catherine had remained a staunch Roman Catholic, as earnest as any, in the opinion of the conservative Bishop of Winchester, Stephen Gardiner, but in the next decade began to embrace evangelicism, or Protestantism. On the 12th of October 1537, Prince Edward was born to Jane Seymour. Catherine played a significant role in the christening ceremony. As Baldwin describes, one source says that when all was over, Catherine carried the infant back to his apartments, followed by a 400-strong entourage. Tragically, Jane Seymour died on the 24th of October 1537, shortly after giving birth. Despite this loss, Catherine's status at court continued to rise. As Brandon's star rose at court and his relationship with the king became stronger, Catherine became one of the most powerful ladies in England. It was roughly at this time that Catherine would welcome her second son by Charles Brandon, called Charles Brandon. We don't know his exact birth date, but it is thought to be around 1537-1538. In November 1538, Catherine and Charles dined with the king at Hampton Court Palace, attending what one guest described as the best banquet that ever I was at. The following year, in May 1539, Catherine's mother, Maria de Salinas, passed away, leaving Katherine and Brandon to inherit some of her properties. Catherine's religious views continued to evolve, and she began to associate with reformers and evangelicals. During this period as well, the Suffolk household was starting to employ and host reformers and evangelicals. Katherine would leave behind the faith of her mother to follow this faith instead. In 1543, Henry VIII married Catherine Parr, and Catherine Brandon became the new Queen's lady-in-waiting. Catherine Brandon was part of a select group of people privileged enough to attend Henry VIII's sixth and final wedding. Only 18 people were in attendance. It is possible that her and the new Queen were already on intimate terms. It is possible that Catherine Parr's influence on the Duchess of Suffolk is what solidified her conversion from Catholicism. In either April or May 1544, Catherine bade farewell to her now 60-year-old husband when he embarked on what was to be his last military campaign in France. Charles Brandon was in France until November of 1544, but he would die quite suddenly within a year at Guildford on the 22nd of August 1545. Brandon had been attending a meeting of the Privy Council in Guildford the day before his death. Some sources specifically mention that he died at Guildford Castle, while others simply stated he died in Guildford. I do have a video on Guildford Castle if you want to go check that out. Charles Brandon died on the 22nd of August 1545, leaving Catherine a widow at the age of 26. Interestingly, Dr. Cat mentions that with Charles Brandon out the way, there were some who thought that the king was set to set aside Catherine Parr, so that he could make this widow, who was by then only in her mid-20s, his seventh wife. By the way, I love Dr. Cat's content. Please go check it out, go support her, go subscribe. These rumours stemmed from several factors. Catherine was a young, wealthy widow following Charles Brandon's death in August 1545. She was known for her wit. She had proven fertility with 2 living sons. Her youth, political connections, and previous interactions with the king made her an intriguing potential spouse. Foreign diplomats and court gossips circulated these rumours, suggesting Henry might be dissatisfied with Catherine Parr and considering a new wife. However, given Henry's declining health and the fact that he had already reinstated his daughters in the line of succession, these speculations were likely more court intrigue than a serious possibility. After Brandon's death, Catherine regained full control of her lands and was granted a dower third of her late husband's property. Her eldest son, Henry, would inherit the remaining 2/3 when he came of age, and in the meantime, she was able to buy his wardship and marriage from the crown for £1,500, payable in 7 instalments. Charles Brandon's will, made during the siege of Boleyn in 1544, revealed his trust in Catherine Willoughby, while also placing conditions on her inheritance. Brandon left plate and jewels to Catherine and his 2 daughters from his marriage to Mary Tudor, Frances and Eleanor. However, he stipulated that Catherine must remain unmarried after his death to retain control over the distribution of his estates. Brandon's concern was that a new husband might influence Catherine's decisions regarding the heir's interests. The will stated that if Catherine remarried, she would forfeit her right to distribute plate, jewels, household stuff, other goods and profits of land, according to Brandon's wishes. Despite this restriction, Catherine proved trustworthy. She did not remarry until after the deaths of her sons, and in March 1546, the other executors granted her unsupervised administration of the bequests, citing their special trust and confidence in her. Brandon also made a poignant request to King Henry VIII, asking him to extend and continue his accustomed goodness towards my said entirely beloved wife, the Lady Catherine, aforesaid. This request demonstrates Brandon's deep affection for Katherine, and his desire to ensure her continued favour at court after his death. Throughout this period, Katherine Willoughby demonstrated her ability to navigate the treacherous waters of Tudor politics, while also evolving in her religious beliefs. Her life from 1533 to 1545 was marked by significant events that shaped both her personal life and her role in the Tudor court. And that's where I'm going to leave today's video. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye.